Welcome to the Perfectly Sane Show, episode 677. I am Chris, as always, joined by Tony.
A hot dog is not a sandwich, neither is a taco or a burrito.
That's fair.
But they're all delicious.
Yes, I will eat all of those things. They're just not sandwiches.
Fine. You agree that a hot dog is not a sandwich, though, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where did this come from?
Walt asked us about burritos and tacos being Hispanic sandwiches, I believe is the wording he used. Mexican sandwiches.
Mexican. And a Mexican sandwich is a torta. You can
That's like there
are actual Hispanic sandwiches. That's what I was like. They do exist.
They are delicious. They are fantastic. Tacos and burritos are not those.
So the torta looks like a sandwich.
Yeah, it is. It's good.
It's on a roll. It's on some bread. Like
that's the entire part of it's a sandwich. It's 2 pieces of bread and some stuff in between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Earl is here as well.
I've been on vacation, so I actually don't even know what's topical this week. And honestly, I'm happy for that. So yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
That's fine. And Jeff, you are here as well, back after you feel a little better after last week.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever gotten over a cold quicker than that. I don't understand. I came down with it on Monday, and by Friday morning I was fine.
It's not bad.
Maybe when I was younger, when I was still had an immune system and things like that, but not anytime recently. Yeah, I'm back at it.
Some news happened. We'll get into that in a little bit, but Jeff, you've been playing, or at least you started. I don't know if you continued with it, but you played a little bit of Animal Well, which seems like at least the game's critics are all over that game.
Yeah, they're right. It's good. Everyone should be all over it. I'm the only one that's played this game.
I downloaded it on a PlayStation because it's included with PlayStation Plus. So.
Oh my god, I didn't know that. Well, I don't have PlayStation Plus, but I got it on Switch. I
have PlayStation Plus. I forgot to cancel it, so they charged me whatever it is.
Well, now you could play Animal
Now
Well.
I have it.
Yeah, it's I don't know which tier it's on, but it's somewhere in there.
I hope I'm on one of the upper tiers if they're charging me $130. So.
Yeah, I hope so. So all I know about this is the YouTuber video game Donkey.
Yes,
is he's associated with this. Yeah,
it's his first I guess made a studio first game that they've published. Now he's out of it.
No,
he's a publisher of it. Okay,
yeah.
So what is Animal Well?
It is. And I know you don't like this term, but just for simplicity, it's a Metroidvania that is really emphasizes the parts of those games that I enjoy, which is just the sense of exploration and finding a new thing and being able to access a new area. There's actually no real combat in it. There's boss encounters, but you are not offensively attacking the bosses.
You're running away?
Pretty much, yeah.
So is it kind of like that Disney Ocean Island? Is that what it's called?
What?
No, there's combat in that game.
Okay, I thought there was no combat.
Oh, no, this is good.
I'm not saying it's not good, but because I remember the boss battles in that game, it's more kind of puzzle oriented and more environmental than it is.
I guess the game that honestly I thought of first is Axiom Verge 2, because that game also was just combat is not so important, or it was more based on exploration. But I think if you like Metroidvanias, you have to play this game. It's just, even if technically maybe it's not doing anything different, it just has its own look, its own kind of personality, its own atmosphere that is just really neat to explore. It just feels like a joy the whole time you're playing it. And in fact, I've I've avoided playing it for the last few days for a few reasons, but one of them is I've just had such a joy with that game that like I'm afraid to keep playing, and somehow it'll piss me off. There are tricky parts, and there have been some parts that were pretty hard to get through, and I was like, "Fuck!" Oh, thank God I got through that because I could have been stuck there for a while. Another reason is I know it's short because early on when it's out, like if you get stuck, there's no guides. It's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You look it up and it's like you could see a whole playthrough. So like I was stuck in one room, I couldn't figure it out, right? And I found a full playthrough of the game. It was like 2.5 hours long, and I just had to scrub through that video looking for the room. Because you could do anything in any order really. But yeah, so that's 2.5 hours now. That's it if you know what you're doing. I've spent way more than that in the game. I've probably spent
how long to beat has
6 to 8 hours. Yeah.
How long to beat has it as main story of 6 hours is the average.
I feel like I've spent more time than that already, but like my sense of judging these things is bad.
But also like you might be venturing off exploring extra areas as well. So like if you're doing that, it's like the average is like 10 hours.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
combat oriented. What makes it difficult? Is it like solving the puzzles and using the abilities, or like what makes it challenging? I guess.
Yeah, there are some puzzles that are just like kind of hard to pull off, which is weird. Like IGN's review is like, it's not about platforming. It's like, no, there's platforming challenges, like pretty like tough timing based things. And then sometimes the difficulty could just be like, what the fuck am I supposed to do in this room? But what I'm referring to more is, there's some things that are actually like hard to pull off. Like you're like, I get the concept, but it's gonna take me some tries. It's almost like, no, I don't want to say that.
Say it.
No, I was gonna say like part of it like reminds me of like Celeste, but it doesn't. Not really.
It's not like super brutally challenging.
No,
that way.
but it's just like each room you come in, there's something to it. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's some sort of thing that you have to figure out, which I think is really neat. It's like combine. I mean, there's always that element to these types of games, but like this is like it cranked up that puzzle element and the exploration element, and then turned down like combat because there's basically no combat. I guess the other neat thing is that like. Like I said, it's just got its own personality. So like all of the like items and shit that you get are like, it's not the standard fare that you would expect, double jump or whatever. Like it's like you get like weird stupid shit. Like I have a bubble wand and a fucking slinky. Like there's a whole area where you solve puzzles using a slinky, which is just like, it just makes it feel fresh because you're just like, okay, this is completely. These puzzles, I've never done anything else because I've never done a game that makes me use a slinky to solve puzzles, I highly recommend it. Like, you can't go wrong with this game. If you like this type of game, like, I understand some people might not like, Metroidvanias or whatever, but if you do, you should definitely be playing this.
Did we lose somebody there for a second?
Am I lost?
What? Huh?
Am I here?
No, yeah, everybody's here. I heard like the disconnect, somebody reconnecting. So.
Oh, it was
Someone's
probably your subconscious telling you should play Animal Well.
Sure. Well, I have it downloaded, so yeah,
I think. I mean, you like this genre, right? Like, I think you'll really dig it. I think it's just so neat. Like, and again, like I'm like trying to savor it. Also, if I'm being 100% honest, like I wanted something meaty on the side that I could also play too, something that I could sink more time into, and that ended up being Fallout 4, and like that game is just like completely sucked me in. Like I'm just like wasting all of my free gaming time or whatever.
What do you mean wasting? Wasting.
Well, it is a wasteland.
Heyo, but
it's occupying all of Jeff's free time.
I think technically the Fallout 3 was the Wasteland. This is like the, what do they call it? The Commonwealth. You're not in the Wasteland.
They called New Vegas Wasteland. That was I guess I'm bouncing around games here, but like I had to bounce off of New Vegas, dude. It's just like too much at the end. Like I don't know if you guys remember that game or ever got to the end. It was just too much.
Yeah, I think there's too much complexity.
Yes, it's like everything is interconnected, and you're like, fuck, so that means I gotta go do everything?
And you're like, I don't know what to do here, because it's too hard to figure out which faction and whatever. There's a lot. That's exactly it, Tony. Like, it kind of turned me off. Like, it's neat in theory, like, it's a neat idea. It's like, oh man, like, everything's connected. But I just got kind of frustrated. Well, I just was bored with it, and like, everything in that game is a pain in the ass. Yeah. And then when you come to Fallout 4, boy, it is like illuminating to play those two games back to back. Because for as much as Fallout 4 gets shit on, like, damn, dude, it's much more enjoyable to play.
It's objectively better in almost every way. Like, I'm telling you.
I was gonna say it's similar to kind of returning to like Morrowind and Oblivion.
Yeah.
And then playing Skyrim. Like Skyrim just has all these like quality of life adjustments.
Yeah.
It's like in your head that I've never played Morrowind, but I get the comparison you're doing. It's like, yeah, that was better because it had a cooler story and this and that or whatever it is. Right. But when you play them back to back, it just becomes so apparent like how much
like this game is not in that other games league anymore.
Yeah. It is like. So, like, I've been really, like, it made playing Fallout 4 way more exciting for me this time, because I was like, man, this game really is good. Like, I was right back when because I remember when it came out, I was, like, one of the few people that was like, yeah, it's fucking awesome. And guess what? It's pretty fucking awesome. Like, I'm enjoying the hell out of it.
I think I will go back to 4 at some point. And my problem with both 4 and New Vegas is it takes so long to get to where you want to be. And in New Vegas, you want to be in Vegas,
right?
It takes forever to get there. And then in 4, like I want to be in Boston, like actual Boston, not like the suburbs of it, which is neat. But
when I played through the second time, like it felt like it took a really long time the first time I played through.
Yeah,
which playing the second time, like it took me like 2 hours to get to Boston.
And it's probably because like you're out exploring a little bit more, and when I was like,
I sort of knew where I want. Like I didn't remember, again, playing through the second time, I didn't remember anything, but I knew that I wanted to get to Boston as soon as possible because that's where the cool stuff was.
Yeah,
and it's not that hard to get there.
My experience has been different in that like I went into it just like wanting to fuck around. Like I have like no desire. I don't care if I'm doing side quests. I'm not trying to get to Boston, and I'm having a blast.
I get that.
In New Vegas, you could get there. You could get to Vegas relatively early, and I think I did on this playthrough. But for me, again, the big thing with New Vegas was like getting to the end game is, boy, is it a workload for you. It's like go solve every faction's fucking bullshit or like take care of them. I like took care of every faction. Like I either killed the faction completely, or I got them this. Like I got the boomers that they will support me in the final battle, and they'll be dropping bombs and shit, right? But there was one faction I had left to deal with, and that was the Brotherhood of Steel, and I just didn't want to fucking do it because I knew I would have to go to their base and like basically kill them all because they're the Brotherhood of Steel. I just said, fuck this, dude. Like, I'm, you know what? Tony seems like he's enjoying Fallout 4. I'll try that. And guess what? Fallout 4, honestly, I think the contrast between those two is like what really pulled me into playing 4 again and having a blast. And I'm actually like, so far, anyways, kind of ignoring the things that I said I found annoying, like the base building. Although I should really do that. I should really.
There are some benefits to doing the base building, but you can also ignore it.
Yeah.
And I also feel like going through the second time, like if you build the defenses on your bases, like it becomes so much less annoying. Like you just open the base for the first time, you're like, oh, I'm going to build 3 or 4 of those machine gun turret things.
Yeah.
And then you're done, and the base never gets attacked because the defense level is so high. and you just move on. You're like, okay, I'm just gonna ignore this forever.
And you can generate stuff for yourself, right?
And
I would imagine,
you don't know that the first time you play, and it's like,
right.
This is an annoying building feature that I don't want to learn how to do.
Yeah. I think that's also like why it takes you so long to get to Boston the first time you play, because walking around out there for the first time is fucking scary.
Yeah.
You're like, everything is dead. There's these things that attack you that can kill you instantly. If you go to the wrong place, you're fucking dead because you're facing a creature you can't possibly fight back against.
Yeah.
The second time, I sort of knew which way to go, and I knew it was going to be okay if I went that way.
But funny thing though, I was trying to ignore the power armor. Some missions make you like early on. There's like an introductory mission that like tells you what the power armor is and makes you use it.
It's like you're fighting the big claw thing, right? The death claw.
The death claw.
Yeah. But strangely enough, I forgot what the fuck I was doing. I was trying to do the thing I was talking to you about, Tony, which is helping the Minutemen like clear out these bugs or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And this queen, out of the castle. This queen comes out at the end of that fucking mission, and I'm like, holy fuck, I am so fucked on this. And I did not. I had my power armor with me there, but it was out of fucking gas. And I'm just like, fuck, dude, I need to go like do some shit. So I just went and did. I can't remember what fucking side mission or whatever the fuck I did. But one, it was cool because Preston followed me around on this. Like, so I had 2 companions with me while I was doing other quests, and he'd keep being like, dude, we need to go back and take care of those bugs. I was like, yeah, but I got you with me now, bitch. This is great. This is like a great fucking hack. But I did, some other stuff, and I found a Fat Man, and I found a mini nuke, and I wish I could remember where I found this, but I found another set, like a new power armor that looks fucking more badass, dude. It looks cooler, like it looks more evil. So now I got 2 power armors floating.
Is it the XO1 power armor?
Yeah, something like that.
From like the Enclave?
Yes, I think so. It looks like it has like a bug head or like kind of like the bad guy in the first Spider-Man or something. Yeah. I was like, I don't remember seeing this the first time I played the game. Anyways,
it wasn't in there. That is new. That is like
really cool
from some of the content they threw in when they did the latest patch.
And I would imagine that the Halloween mask I got is something new too.
Yeah,
I would imagine I would have found that in the first playthrough.
Yeah.
Did either of you play any of the DLC stuff, like Nuka? It was Nuka Cola World, or
I have not.
There's Nuka World. I just actually played through the entirety of Far Harbor.
So that I wanted to ask you about that. If you did, is that like the Cape Cod area?
It's Bar Harbor, Maine.
Okay.
Which oddly enough, I used to vacation in when I was little, which is kind of cool. I found it to be really interesting. It's much more. There's a much more contained campaign there with like 3 different factions that are all interrelated, and there's like a really cool storyline behind it all. The area is not huge in Far Harbor. Like, it's obviously not going to compare to Boston, but It's large enough where you feel like you can go out and explore and find some interesting things. And there's some really good equipment that you can find there and then bring back to the Commonwealth. That'll help you a lot. But I really liked Far Harbor. There's some, like, the story there is really cool. There's a couple of different ways of dealing with what is happening there. From like eliminating a settlement by turning off their power, to blowing up another one, to replacing the leadership with synths if you want to. So there's like a lot of options there. It's pretty cool.
How many DLCs were there? 2?
I think there were 2 big DLCs and there were a couple of smaller ones.
Like small free things or that I probably have, or no?
I think so. There's Nuka World, there's Far Harbor, there's the robot one, which you probably run into the robots. There's like a little caravan you can find, and recruit a robot who becomes a companion for you. There is a settlement DLC that focuses on what I think is called Vault 88. I haven't done that one yet. That vault is like to the south of Boston in like really tough territory to walk through. Like there's a lot of really evil stuff in that direction. If you get down there, I'm sure it's pretty cool though. I think there's a couple of other small DLCs that focus on like more stuff you can add to your settlements and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they look like they're workshop DLCs.
Yeah.
Nuka World and Far Harbor are like the two big story ones.
Yeah, I look forward to so I've played through the Minutemen quest lines. I've played through a lot of the Brotherhood of Steel stuff. There's also the Railroad and the Institute, which I haven't touched either one of those plot lines. The Institute is like late on in the campaign before you can even meet them for the first time.
Yeah, do you know what happens? Because I vaguely remember from when I played.
I never played through the campaign, so I don't know.
Okay.
All I did was look at like when do you meet the because I saw there's an achievement for meeting for joining.
Yeah.
The so all I know is like it's literally the next campaign mission that I have. To get to them and meet them and figure out what's going on, and then I want to try. I want to join those two, and then I want to try Nuka World. And then I'll finish the campain.
I think you eventually have to decide like who you're siding with.
Yeah, I've already decided I'm going to side with the Minutemen. Like
me too.
I think
they're just basic.
They're the only ones who are worth it. Like these people are just they're trying their best. They hope the best for everybody. They're good people. The Brotherhood of Steel are like racist xenophobes. The synths seem only concerned with themselves. I don't know about the Railroad. Maybe you can side with them. I don't know. I haven't met them yet.
I don't 100% remember who I sided with the first time. I think I have an inkling. I'm not gonna say anything spoilery, but I did. Again, I thought that the story was interesting. From what I remember, I liked it. I'm trying to say this without any clues. I thought that it was neat when you get near the end.
I also know that I could say all of that and then like be like, oh, that sounds cool, and just do something else. I know how I am. Like I definitely had made up my mind of what I was going to do in Far Harbor, and then something just came up. I'm like, ooh, that sounds better, and I did that instead.
Anything else with Fallout, guys?
It's fun.
It's great. I'm really super enjoying it. Yeah.
Earl, you play anything this past week?
No, not really. Vacation. I've not been home a ton, so
that's fine. Understandable. Jeff, you play anything else? I mean, you played a bunch of Fallout and Animal Well, so
I did play Operation Guns DLC. I don't know if you guys discussed that last week.
Did you get it? I did. I got it. I absolutely did not get to it. Earl had played a little bit of it last week, though.
Yeah, well, one, it is like almost like a full game layered on top. It's just like here's an extra Vampire Survivors. I guess one of their other DLCs was kind of like that too. I own all the DLC, but I can't keep track of everything. It's neat. I like it a lot, but like there's I think 6 levels, like six stages. I am so stuck on stage 4. Like cannot get out of the first 10 minutes. And I think you only have to make it 20 minutes. I think in most of the stages in this one it's 20 minutes. There's one that's 30, which is strangely like that was the one easy level, was the 30-minute one. But boy, oh boy, I'm getting an ass kicked in stage 4. I just cannot get out of it. But it's just, it's fucking cool. It's more Vampire Survivors. Yeah, more characters. Like you're starting from scratch. Like you have to build up the characters again. And so like, after a while, like you locked everything. Like you've leveled up your armor and your health and this and this and that, right? Like you get to start from scratch again. So that's pretty fucking cool. I love it. I can't believe, like, dude, I will fucking buy anything that they release for that game till the end of time. Especially if it's all $2
I was going to say it also helps and everything's like a bag of chips. Like, yeah, I'm all for it.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm gonna get another fucking 20 hours out of this. Thank you.
Yeah, what, $2 or $2.50 for their DLC?
It was like $2.50 or yeah, it's so fun. And it's like it's not just like garbage. It's like, again, it's like that Contra one is like a full game. Like, it's cool, man.
Good. Looking forward to. I have it downloaded. I just need to find a couple minutes to sit down and give it a go. Tony, you play anything else?
I think Fallout was the only thing that I played.
Yeah, that's fine. How are your kids liking Little Kitty Big City?
I think the controls are a little floaty. It like definitely conveys the cat experience, and I've watched them play a lot of it, so they seem to enjoy like being a cat. But like there's a lot of environmental platforming, and it's just not that solid. So
That's a shame.
yeah, I mean it's on Game Pass, it's free, so the price is right, I suppose. But
yeah,
and it's very cute. Like if you like cats and you like to like trip people as a cat, or like drop plants, or like push stuff off counters and be an ass, kind of like Untitled Goose Game. It kind of has that vibe to it. And I think the actually movement through the world in Untitled Goose Game was kind of weird too and clunky.
Yeah, like the goose was always kind of fighting you.
Yeah, so very similar experience.
Completely different than a Little Kitty Big City. I played a indie game called Indika this past week. It is it's a narrative adventure game. A third person, you're kind of controlling this nun, and she gets tasked with taking a letter to, I guess like a bishop or something. She is haunted by a voice in her head, and she sees things, and so her world on this journey keeps getting more and more outlandish. At one point, you are in like a fish factory, and you're walking around on like tuna fish cans that are the size of buildings. Like it's just really like everything in her reality starts like really getting warped. It's pretty neat though. Story wise, pretty cool. I finished it right before we started recording. It's it's like from a Russian developer, and yeah, like this narratively, it's pretty neat. Like where like things just keep warping for her, and sometimes that plays into the game where like when things get really bad, everything goes red and the world breaks apart, and she can pray and put it back together. But it's all about like this thing she's like chasing faith basically, and she's having a crisis of faith. And I won't spoil where the ending goes. But if you like shit that like kind of twists that type of content, it gets pretty wonky and weird, and it's pretty neat. So I'm playing that on Steam. I think it's coming out on everything at some point, but really weird, strange game. That's it for what we've been playing. We do have some news this week.
So much news.
Hopefully, good news. Nothing but good news.
Well,
it's all
news. It's not all bad.
Or,
I mean,
or weird.
Who got laid off this week? Who got slaughtered?
Actually, some people, there were some.
My favorite story is about a studio or a publisher denying that they laid people off.
Oh, well, you go into that one because I'm not sure I know that one.
So Take-Two earlier, and we talked about this. Take-Two was shadowing a couple of studios, Roll7 and Intercept Games, which made Ollie World and Kerbal Space Program 2. The CEO of Take-Two, Strauss Zelnick, was giving an interview to IGN where they asked him about this, and he denied that they'd closed the two studios, but also wouldn't confirm that they were still open.
Like, I can neither confirm nor deny if those studios exist anymore. Like, what?
Yes. There's like some weird nether realm that he's in where they may have been folded into another studio, in which case they weren't technically eliminated or whatever, but they didn't actually confirm what had happened.
Oh, Jesus. Well, I guess in addition to Strauss Zelnick out there bullshitting his way through interviews, Square will be laying off some employees in America and Europe, as they tighten up, I guess, after a let's say disappointing financial that they just laid out there. And as part of that, they're doing these layoffs in the US and Europe, and they are also restructuring their studios internally. And they've announced that they are aggressively moving away from exclusive content. So basically, they're saying that they're shit with Sony, that they've the contracts they've signed for Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 have not panned out as well as they would have liked, and they're moving away from that, so they can aggressively pursue a new multi-platform strategy.
I am shocked, I say, that selling a game like that on one system is a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I always assumed part of it was Sony fit the bill for part of it,
Right.
but you still have to sell copies too.
Right. And if they're not footing enough of the bill, like, it wouldn't matter if maybe they sell like that and they sell, I mean, a third is probably too harsh. It's probably like maybe they sell half of what they would sell if they launched on everything simultaneously, right?
Right.
Sony needs to come up with the other half. Otherwise, that model doesn't work.
It worked for a time. Yeah, I mean, yes, it worked for a time. I mean, which is why we have it. But clearly, we're getting to the point where, I mean, if you're not a console maker, it's harder and harder to justify single console, um, the single console releases. And I mean, I think the bigger thing, at least in regards to Final Fantasy, for what we know, is I understand why in hindsight this is the way it is, but Square and Sony have pretty much given up Japan for the better part of like 15 years. And that was their bread and butter. And if you're not even catering to your home market, I mean, sales have to come from somewhere. And it's not like it's necessarily growing in the West.
No.
Because I think, because I was going to say, I think the thing, if I'm correct, and I think this is what they said, Final Fantasy 16, from what they said, started off really strong. It hit their expectations
Yes.
for initial release, and then there were no eggs. So it was like the people who were going to buy it bought it, and nobody else.
Yeah, and that, I mean, a brand like Final Fantasy, you're going to be front loaded. Like, people that want to play that game are going to buy it up front, but then you do need to find a way to continue to sell it. They haven't been able to. And maybe some of that is that, people like Sean who don't have a PlayStation, don't have a console at this point, only play on PC. They're, he's not going to buy a $500 PlayStation to play Final Fantasy 16. He's just going to wait it out, or just not play it because there's tons of other options to play.
Which I think is the problem with exclusivity. Like, people who aren't willing to buy the system, just play something else. Because there are so many games these days. It just doesn't, there's no such thing as a game that is a system seller anymore.
Right.
I think the market is just so saturated with games that this is not a thing that happens now.
I disagree to an extent. I do think. I mean, like I I think it's hard. It would be hard to say that Breath of the Wild was not a system seller, for example.
Okay, no, but Nintendo's a little different in the fact that they have a whole portfolio of things that you get if you buy a Nintendo console.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking about like selling your exclusive game on this system to sell more of that system, that is not a thing that happens anymore. But like if you're talking about like if I'm buying a Nintendo console, I get access to all of these Nintendo brands. Okay, I think that's something else.
Yes, that's fair.
But... And it is something like, you know, even just exclusively to the system, like is Halo, is Gears, is God of War, is Uncharted strong enough that's like, yeah, I'm gonna spend $500 or $600 on the system to play that game.
Because I think the weird thing is like the PlayStation 5 hardware was so health. I mean, I think it missed expectations by a few 100,000, but it was within range.
Yeah,
its hardware is selling, and I think this was Tony's point. It's like I think we've gotten to the point so far into these generations that you kind of already have your horses. Like you buy Sony for RPGs and cinematic games. You buy Xbox for online and shooters and stuff like that. You buy it, but the problem is again there's attrition. Like Sony's hardware is selling. That's because I paid God of War. I had not paid God of War Ragnarok. Not I mean mostly because I don't have a PS5. But it's like, okay, if you had 10 people who bought God of War and you get 7 back, like you're keeping those fans, but you're not getting anybody new in return because at this point, you know what you're getting with God of War. I think Final Fantasy is. I definitely know this is the case with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a sequel to a remake. That's the second part of a trilogy. You're going to use people on that alone.
Yeah, like I mean, remake sold incredibly well. It did great, but I think that people that played that, and there were a lot of them. Some of them were just like, that's all I wanted out of it. Like that's all I needed.
Or some people were like, this is not what I wanted.
And there were those people too.
It's not a 1-to-1 remake of Final Fantasy VII. This is an interesting idea, but I wanted an actual remake. I'm good.
So you lose both those groups.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now you're left with the people who are like, yeah, I want to see where this goes, and like I'm on board with that. But it does go like, and I think you're gonna lose people with the third version of it as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So like, if they were expecting 10 million out of each of these, and we talked about this for years, like Square's expectations on their games are bonkers, but
they killed the Tomb Raider, like the whole what is it?
That whole new trilogy.
Yeah, because their expectations were like so out of the range of possibility.
Yeah. But yeah, like it's just they're gonna lose people, and they were never gonna hit like 10 million. They were never gonna hit what they hit for remake with Rebirth.
Yeah,
and it's kind of bonkers.
Yeah, I like they lost me because like I kind of feel like remake. I haven't played the remake yet. I haven't finished it. I will at some point, and then I'll play Rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of feels like there's this other game that is like the gateway to playing this game that you want me to buy.
There is. I mean, there is.
Yeah, and they were out there going like, oh well, you could just jump right, and you can like there's a 4-minute kind of, hey, here's like a refresher on what happened or get you up to speed. But it's not really the same as like you having put the 20-25 hours into that first game.
You have no ownership over any of the characters. You like see this person, maybe you remember them from that 4-minute video. You probably don't.
Right.
And like everybody else who played that first game was like, oh my god, he's back! And you're just like, I don't know who this guy is.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is on them, but there's really nothing you can do with the scope of it. It's like calling it like what 3-4 years in between releases
Yep.
of. It's the same problem I have with almost all the movies from last year that ended in the cliffhanger. It's like you needed to have those things in production to go, not we're gonna end on a cliffhanger and none of them are coming out for at least 2 years. It's the same thing. Like people move on, and because people are like, oh, I have to replay this game that I played in 2021, 2020 to kind of get up to speed for this new game, which again is a remake of a game that's almost 30 years old. It's so, so yeah, 7 I kind of get. It's 16 that I think they should be more worried about. The fact that like it started really well and then it just kind of plateaued to like I don't. I mean, because I thought initial impressions were really good, but word of mouth apparently was not what people wanted.
Well, one, as a fan of the franchise, the fans in this franchise don't know what the hell they want. Like they are so torn on what they think a Final Fantasy is, and I think it really depends on like which one you started with is like that's what Final Fantasy is for you. And 16 like is very action focused, which will work for a lot of people, but the old school RPG folk are not going to be on board with that, and they weren't, and they kind of talked it down. So it split. But that game still sold incredibly well. They sold 3 million copies in the first like month of that game coming out. So, they did not give updated numbers for either Rebirth or 16, but I would be surprised if 16 is not somewhere between 4 and 5 million. And maybe that's not like what Square was looking for, but that's very good for a role-playing game that's not Diablo.
Yeah.
Or Baldur's Gate 3.
I mean, but they shut down on Tomb Raider because the sales were what?
Those like, exactly that 5 million to 10 million.
They're like, we need it to be there, and it wasn't there, and like that's a ridiculous expectation. It's just never going to happen.
And I think some of it, right, is that and you can actually look throughout the last 2 years. Square releases a lot of games, and they kind of rely on these big games to fund everything. And if they're not hitting those giant marks, then they're not funding these smaller games that they're hitting out there.
Which is part of what they also said is like they are. I mean, I think they did that before. They took the write down earlier in the year, which is them getting rid of some of those smaller games.
Yeah,
and I mean, I understand it from the nickels and cents point of view, but it seems like it's just a continuous downward, not just for them, but in the industry where we are going to get rid of smaller games to focus on. Crap, somebody had a term for it this week, but like the high potential uh, games, and that's good in theory if you're Rockstar, and like you can get GTA 5 and have that be a platform on its own for 10 years. But that's not good for you if you're Square and it's Final Fantasy 17 and it doesn't do as well because there's no backup. There's no, I mean, not Square, but it came out this week. Helldivers sold 12 million. Like that was not a game on anybody's radar as being a huge seller, and that is what you would need. You need that other game that's like gonna come out of nowhere, or a bunch of small games that prop up your bottom line.
Yep, and their small games are not. They're not profitable. Like they're bombing. They are foam stars. They are Forspoken. Like,
and don't forget about foam stars.
I'm not saying I've not played foam stars, so I can't speak on whether it's good or not. But like even if they're good, they're not performing well, so you're losing money on them, and then you're relying on your actual name games to like not only make their budget back, but also prop up the rest of your company. Well, good luck, Square.
We want you to stay around and make more games. Just like
it's release everything everywhere, and I'll continue to buy every re-release of Final Fantasy that you put out there. I'll just own it on everything. So
maybe stop doing that. Maybe like make new games that aren't
do
tied
that
to old
too.
games.
Yes.
Well, I mean, that's a whole. Okay, I just want to bring this up real quick. I know it has nothing to do with anything that we talk about, and it's not as serious, but.
We always do everything super serious on this podcast, Earl, as you know.
The internet is never a serious place, but, and God, I wish I saved this. There's a tweet that came up this week where somebody's like, Sony fans are being treated like black people in 1939 America.
1939. I don't know why they picked that date in particular. 1939.
But they're just like, because we're not getting any excuses anymore. And they're being treated like second-class citizens. And it stayed up. I mean, it's probably still up. And I read that and my brain just broke. It's like, how do you, where do people come up with this?
I think people need to like read a little bit more about like what it was like in 1930 America for black people, or even
I would
2020 America. Like I don't understand.
I don't even know. Like, it was odd. He picked a specific year, and I mean, there's a lot of years you could pick from that was not great for black people in America. You could pick yesterday.
I'm a Sony fan, so I'm being followed around in a department store by the security. I don't know what's happening. I don't understand. All I did was buy Final Fantasy, and.
But I read that, and I'm like, can gamers just be normal for like one day?
Absolutely not.
No.
I was out with some friends today, and I had to explain to them what vagina bones were.
Oh God!
And then I was like, oh God, I forgot about vagina bones, but that came back around this year. And I'm like, why are they this way? Why can't
you talk about the bone on the vagina?
No, it's not even on a vagina. It's on their pelvis. It's like their waist. It's like the V shape at like comes
like so like
bump their vagina bone.
No. So if you're drawing a female character in a very specific style, like anime, like the bikini line, like above it, it's like, where your hip would be, basically, like the hip bone, but where it kind of protrudes out, like where you can like where your hips connect to your legs. Well, I don't know, gamers are stupid, and it was for some JRPG game 4 or 5 years ago. The artwork got modified from the original Japanese version to when it came to the West, and they removed that.
No vagina bone.
They were like, they're censoring our shit. They removed the vagina bone. Like, it's not what that is.
That's not a thing that exists.
I can't. It's insane how not okay so many people are in the game. Well, on the online game in Spare, and yeah, I mean, maybe people just need to see healthy expression of what women look like in real life, and maybe they need to read history books to understand how minorities are treated in this country. But I feel like so many people are so desperate to be victims for some odd reason, and I don't know why. Like they need to be a victim of something, but I don't understand the mentality of needing to be a victim.
I think it's wanting to be a victim. Like It's jealousy almost. Like
But the people
you're
who are
getting
victims
this.
are like, oh, this is a
They
wonderful.
don't understand everything else that comes with it. They're like, you're getting this special treatment. Well, I want that too, and it never gets any deeper than that.
Yeah, pretty much.
That was from 2016.
Is it that old?
Yeah.
The Vagina Bones is that old. Oh, I mean, we're super old too.
So
but like, it came back this week. I mean, I think part of it was again. I mean, we discussed the other day before.
I still don't see what the fuck you're talking about. The camel toe?
No.
No.
Look up. So above the waistline, you see the two little black marks. Like the pelvic, the pelvic bone.
Just like kind of like the the form of the body.
They edited that out of this character in the West, and that this person. Let's see. The actual quote was, "Not only did some of the female's cleavage vanish, but they also removed her vagina bone."
What if the name of this podcast when you publish it, Chris, isn't searching for the vagina bones?
Sure.
I don't know how I've never heard of this, but like I would just take that as like kind of shadow lines or whatever, like that's just like the form of your body. Like what?
Yeah. Exactly. I like that we're rehashing. Well, I mean, Earl said it came up this week, but rehashing 8-year-old nonsense.
Never heard of this.
It came up. It came up because I think Hades 2. I think there was. I don't know why I paid attention to these stupid people. There was the one about I think one of the gods looking Asian, and and then I think something about Aphrodite or somebody. No, not Aphrodite. I forget who. Hephaestus, maybe. Being a big burly woman, and then like being like, oh no, you need to. Then they show like an anime woman who looks like she's 12 with and oh my god, I don't understand.
There was more controversy, and I'm assuming we're going to talk about Assassin's Creed. Where they revealed a black samurai, which is like an actual historical fact. People are like, why are we including black people here now? Like, this game is woke now because there's a black samurai.
It's also just insane that somehow we draw the line at like minorities in a franchise that's all about fantasy to begin with, but
yes,
sure.
Yeah, like people aren't just like running through the trees and killing people with hidden blades all the time. Like that wasn't happening.
You could jump off a
tower.
How dare
one of them be black? I don't.
You could jump off a tower and then in a haystack perfectly fine countless times.
Yep.
But we draw the line that black people exist in. That's way too far for us. And again, to Tony's point, based off of an actual person.
There is an actual person who was in the retinue of Lord Toranaga, who becomes Shogun at some point in Japanese history, who was African. He was literally a black man.
But I guess that's a good segue into Assassin's Creed Shadow was announced for release.
The fall is saved, Jeff. The fall is saved.
Yep. November 15th, Jeff. That's coming.
The reason I always remember when the Assassin's Creed games come out, because they always come out within like a day or two of my birthday. Like almost every single time. So this game is 2 days before my birthday.
All right, well,
happy birthday to me.
You.
I'll be getting myself a nice game of Assassin's Creed.
Which it's as Tony and Earl have mentioned, takes place in Japan during the Shogun era. I guess I'm sure it has an actual official name that I am not aware of.
The Shogunate?
Sure. I mean that's an actual term. I mean,
yes.
Feudal Japan. We'll go with that. Which is very similar to what Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah. That is actually before this. So that would be like, I want to say 14th century. The Shogunate is like 16th century.
Okay.
So you're not going to have any crossover in the characters or anything. They're not going to steal characters from Sony's game.
Wonder when Rise of the Ronin takes place. That is 19th century. So I guess none of these games that all take place in Japan cross over at all. So quite interesting. It is, as Assassin's Creed always kind of when they reveal their new game, it was a cinematic trailer. Kind of get a little bit of story there, but it's just flashy, like cinematics, like give you a look at what I guess are the two main characters doing assassin-y things. They didn't give a whole lot of detail, so I don't think.
No.
So we don't know if this is going to be like a syndicate type thing where you get to play as both. Or it doesn't seem like it'll be like Odyssey or Valhalla where you choose one of them. But
though it is by I think the lead studio is the one that made Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
So
which is fine. It does seem like both of these characters, like in Odyssey, if you chose Alexandra, like the other guy, the other
became the villain, like
right, like he was not a playable character for you, and in Valhalla, depending upon who you choose, right, like it's just a cosmetic choice,
yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm kind of excited for it though. It'd be fun.
I mean, this is like the era that I've been waiting for Assassin's Creed to hit since the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, since they made it clear that they were going to make a bunch of these games and they kept switching eras, I'm like, feudal Japan, obviously. And like it make like you think of like ninjas and throwing stars and like the hiding in the shadows and all that. Like it just fits the series so well.
Yeah, instead we have floated around for 20 some years in
right?
every other including like colonial America.
Right. Well, to the point where Sony literally went out and made what was basically Assassin's Creed Japan already. But like I like the Ubisoft's games. I'm interested to see their take on it. And it's they hit a really, really fun era. I mean, if you've been watching like the show Shogun, or like I've been waiting to get into the show yet. I haven't yet, but I've been reading the book over again. And then I was this game. It's just like super exciting to have that. It's a great time period. Probably one of the most exciting time periods in Japan. I think it'll be fun.
And I guess in June we will get gameplay of it, so it'll probably play like Assassin's Creed. But
probably.
I just want to see if it's more linear or like, what was the one that just came out?
Gosh, my brain is failing me. But that I don't think so. I think this is like a more like this is a $70 game. Like they're going for like the fuller experience.
Mirage,
yeah,
was the last one.
Yeah.
But yeah. So is this more like Mirage, where it's a little more, linear, kind of old school style Assassin's Creed, or is this going to be one of their big open world?
It wouldn't bother me Odyssey if it was like of a similar style to Mirage, but larger.
Right. Yeah. Give you like more of. Give you the island, basically, to explore.
Yeah.
But have a little more focus than Odyssey and Valhalla, too, to an extent. They were so bloated with stuff to do.
Yeah. And a lot of it was so repetitious.
Yeah. Let's see. What else we got here?
If we're going to stick on Ubisoft, the other side of the coin, they canceled one of their in development, The Division spinoff online game,
Heartlands, which was going to be free to play.
Yeah. And I guess since they canceled, a bunch of people came out with with the NDAs who had played or beta tested it, and they said it was all right, fine. But it just seemed like I guess they just could not make it make sense for them.
That's fine. I don't know how you make that series make money as a free to play game.
Again, I think there's. I mean, yeah, I guess you wouldn't do a free to play game, but like the idea of like just taking the city and making it more like Destiny, where there's always like events going on that you squad up for, and you have different fractions that take over parts of DC. I think that was in DC. Like, there's a possible way to do it, but I think like we discussed last week or I discussed somewhere, not everything needs to be a forever game. I think the division works. I enjoyed the division. I don't think it needed a spinoff. I don't think it needed a spinoff that needed to make money.
No. And if you're going to make another division, just make another division.
Yeah.
Like, it's been quite some time since the Division 2, so you could do a third one at this point. I don't think there was any more Ubisoft news, but this one's weird. Because Microsoft just closed a bunch of studios last week, but they announced today that they are establishing Elsewhere Entertainment, which is a new Activision studio. It's going to be based in Poland. And it is developing a brand new AAA franchise, whatever that means. But strange considering you just closed down 4 studios to open up a different one.
That's okay. They're next,
right? Like they'll release that game and be like, "Well, now you're a Call of Duty support studio."
Yeah.
Or you just don't exist anymore. I guess we need to kind of touch on. We talked about Matt Booty's comments last week. We talked about the closures of the 4 studios. I think we missed Sarah Bond's comments though.
I think they might have come out I think they were coming out while we were recording. But yes, go on.
Yeah, so she went on Bloomberg and she had some interesting comments to come out of there, and they point blank asked her about closing down Tango and Arcane. And her answer was something along the lines, that's what's great about gaming.
Closing down studios?
It's like it's extraordinarily hard, but that's what's great about gaming.
I just love gaming with less studios. It's awesome. My favorite.
It doesn't make any sense. Let's see. It's always extraordinarily hard when you have to make decisions like that. I'll go back to what I was saying about the industry. When we looked at those fundamental trends, we feel a deep responsibility to ensure the games we make, the devices we build, the services that we offer are there through moments, even when the industry isn't growing and when you come through a tough time of transition. News announced earlier this week is an outcome of that. Our commitment to make sure that the business is healthy long term. Trying to find the part where that was the one that kind of everybody focused on, was that like she's kind of backed away from it. It's not in this article here, but so the interviewer pressed her on specifically mentioned Tango Gameworks and the unexpected success of Hi-Fi Rush, and mentioned Matt Booty's comments at the town hall. So the interviewer here was pressing her on that, and she responded, one of the things I really love about the games industry is it's a creative art form. And it means that the situation and what's success for each game in the studio is also really unique. Like, that's not an answer. What the fuck are you talking about? I really think that maybe Phil and Sarah and Matt should just not talk in public.
Maybe it's a bad plan.
I mean, Phil seems like I'm just not. I'm not talking to anybody. He didn't. I don't think he made an appearance in the past week. He has in the past when they've closed down studios, and he's kind of made his sad face and hate closing down studios and stuff. But he did not do that this time out, and they just seem a little bit out of touch with what's going on, and they don't quite understand why. Really, the answer is, hey, we're running a business, and they don't fit in our business plan. It's a shitty answer, but it's better than. We like that the game industry is a creative art form, but we also want to close down studios that made games that are very creative and gave us accolades. And what the fuck are you talking about? But I guess there's a new studio in Warsaw, so that's good, I guess.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Additional with some of that is that and we kind of suspected this was coming, but there are rumors out of Microsoft that the games on PlayStation are doing quite well. On PlayStation and Nintendo are doing quite well, and there is a debate within Microsoft that they should bring more games over to those platforms, which I think we kind of thought that would happen anyway. Will be timed, but
yeah,
it'll happen. And one final thing that I flagged here is Tomb Raider is announced with Amazon. Crystal Dynamics is partnered with Amazon, and they are bringing a live-action Tomb Raider TV show to Amazon.
Yeah, I think that can work for a TV show.
Yeah, I mean, like a Adventure of the Week type thing. I could see that working. This says the article, the headline here is Tomb Raider to get the Fallout treatment, and I don't think that those two work together.
But that's gonna be the barometer now on.
I mean,
forever.
Like, good show. Like, if that's the barometer, like Fallout was a good show. Like, if that's what we're going, I don't know if Tomb Raider and Fallout correlate together like in that way.
I don't think Tomb Raider is as inherently like interesting. Like,
the world of Fallout is what's interesting, right?
It's interesting. Like yeah, it is.
Yeah, this is kind of the opposite end where like you can do whatever with the world, but the main character is so there's no you have to do your crowd. You can't do somebody else.
And it's just such a riff on Indiana Jones or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, okay, this is already kind of doing like something that was a movie or series of movies and making it a video game. Now you're making a TV show. That I just don't know. I don't know. Again, I would have told you 6 months before Fallout came out. Even after seeing the trailer, I'm like, yeah, that trailer was good, but there's no way it's going to be good, and it was good.
Yeah, I mean, I hope this is good, right? But I think if you're comparing it to Fallout already, and I don't think that Amazon is. Maybe internally, that's their metric. Like, we hope it does as good as Fallout, but I don't necessarily know that you should be pointing at Fallout as the model to do a Tomb Raider, but it could be fun, I guess. I do think it should be like Lara doing Adventure of the Week shit, like.
Yeah, or I mean, I think you can even take some of the games and like having her explore an area for a season. Kind of do I like a Reacher where it's more of an anthology, more of here's Lara Croft. She gets a mission the first episode. She goes to some place. She has to meet the uncles. There's a mystery she needs to solve. I'd make it like 6 episodes.
Yeah, that could work.
Because I think the 2018 movie was pretty decent, but I'm in the minority. I'm not even in the minority. I don't think anybody saw it.
I saw it. It is fine. I think it does exactly what you're asking for.
Yeah.
Like we put Laura in this situation. She has to kind of solve the mystery of it. Do you like that mystery or not is gonna be, where the power in that lies. I guess they'll cast a new Lara Croft. I don't think that was included in that.
I'd imagine so. Again, it's been like 6 years. I think she's moved on.
Yeah, it was what Alicia Vikander.
Yeah.
I guess the other notable piece on this Tomb Raider thing is that Phoebe Waller-Bridge is, I guess she's the one that they're throwing her name around, but she's just an executive producer on it. So,
but it's her and Amazon. Yeah.
Okay, she's also writing the script, so that's more of a active role than just an executive producer. I've always found executive producers to be kind of like it's just your name on the thing. Like,
yeah, it's somewhat better than others. So,
yeah. So I think that's it for news. Unless you got something.
Bro's like, no.
I mean, I think it's somewhat big. More so for what they did versus I don't know these people.
Yep.
But Sony announced the new CEOs. They're gonna have a CEO for hardware and a CEO for software.
Okay.
Herman Holtz.
Yep, he used to be in charge of Gorilla and Europe, I believe.
Yeah, and then Hideki Nishio. So yeah,
Okay.
it's more just fascinating that they're doing two independent CEOs for hardware and software, and I'm curious to see how that works because I feel like it's something that should speak to each other, and I feel like it's probably be better suited for one person, but I guess they thought this would work out.
So, yeah, I kind of agree with you, Earl. Like, it seems to me like you'd want one unified vision that is like, here's our hardware line and our software feeds into selling our hardware.
Yeah.
Or our hardware sells our software, kind of like how Nintendo does it. Having them separate, if they have different goals.
Exactly. Where like you might be like, oh, we need to buff up the hardware business. That's where it's like 5 different SKUs versus like okay, we need to do this. Hardware sells software, software sells hardware. This is what is the reporting structure like that?
I mean, I guess both of them probably report to somebody higher up at Sony than them. So,
but again, I think I'm curious. I could be wrong. I think this is the first time any company or any of the major console holders have ever split it off. So,
yeah. So the article I'm looking at here on this is Nishino, who will lead the platform business group, which is hardware, accessories, also hardware, PlayStation Network, and third-party relations, which covers major publishers and indie studios. So is Holst then really just in charge of like the Sony Interactive portfolio of studios? Because he doesn't see like if the if Nishino on the platform side of it is covering third party relations of like Activision and Ubisoft and those, and then the indie studios, like Holst would only be having first party studios under him, or I guess technically second party if they have any still.
Yeah, I don't.
Weird, very weird. See how that plays out. Anything else news wise you guys catch this week?
I think that might be it for me.
All right. Walt did send in a voicemail. We don't have a soundboard equipped, so can't play that for you guys. I mean, you can listen to it; it's there in the chat. But we'll break down basically what he's kind of asking here.
I think you need to do an impersonation of Walt's voice, because I don't know why he sent in this question with a lisp, but I want to hear your lisp.
Yeah, hi, hello, long-time listener, first-time caller. I just wanted to ask the crew how they feel going forward with the presumed Sony and Microsoft business patterns or schemes, whatever you want to call it, whatever, their current realities compared to Nintendo, who seems to be ready to release information on the Switch 2. Is it a contrast where Nintendo has won multiple generations? There's no going back? Please discuss. Thank you, and Baba Booey.
You're like, no, I'm not even going to try that. Come on.
He's pondering it.
Give it a thought.
Well, so I just played it, and so on the recording, it will actually catch that. So and then it has Tony coming in with his lisp. Sorry, Walt, that we are making fun of your speech patterns currently.
It's okay. It's okay, buddy.
Short version is Microsoft is kind of in disarray. And he wants us to contrast kind of Nintendo, who looks like they have their shit together, getting ready to announce the Switch 2, versus Microsoft, who seems like they don't have a plan currently going forward. Kind of wants to know our thoughts on like what's going on with both of them, and how do we look at it, I guess, from as a fan perspective.
I mean, honestly, I don't look at it in comparison. I think Microsoft and Nintendo aren't the same company in regards to Microsoft has a lot of different, plates in the air, so to speak.
Microsoft is, I mean, my understanding is like massive compared to Nintendo, right? Like
massive. They're one of the largest companies in the world.
Yeah, so it's like
Nintendo
is it's not like Nintendo's a little boutique like store, but like
right.
In the grand scheme of things, they are for Microsoft.
Comparatively, they are. So it's like two different ball games and two different stratospheres, right? Like it's just
like Xbox against Nintendo is like but Xbox is part of Microsoft. They are like such a fraction of what Microsoft produces.
And I don't know. I think at this point it's starting to show like
that Xbox is not a priority for Microsoft.
It's just, dude, they came out of the gate so strong, and especially the 360 era, it was like that was the system, was the 360, right? And it's just like ever since then they have not been able to figure it out. So it's not something that like happened in the last year or the last week. Like they just have not been able to figure it out since 360. Like Xbox One was like kind of a disaster. I don't know what people consider this to be. I just find it unfortunate that they bought all these studios and that was kind of exciting. It was like, hey, shit, they fucking own all these studios. They're going to bunch of shit on Xbox.
Well,
and not really. Not at all, actually.
That's what I wanted to answer to for Walt's question more so, is that I do think both of them have a plan. Microsoft's plan was clearly to throw good money after bad money, right or wrong. Their idea was like, well, if we invest enough of it, we can kind of buy our way into the gaming industry. And I don't mean that as a negative. I just meant that they bought, best in class studios, they bought in IPs. Like, we talk about it now, but like they were what, 3 years into the industry before they bought Rare from Nintendo. They bought Bungie. They, like the problem has been like you can buy it and you can trust these people, but you do need some level of supervision, which is, I guess, the counterpoint. That's very much what Nintendo is. Nintendo is very keen on, they have their hands on every game that comes out in their ecosystem. Like, I mean, you hear stories of like people in Japan trying back and work with Retro on the Metroid Prime series. They worked with people on Dread in Europe, I believe. Next Level Games Canadian. Of course, their internal Japanese studios. Partners like the Pokemon Company and HAL. Like, if you ever look at the credits, there's always at least one like Nintendo internal person who's like the executive producer or something like that who oversees these games, because it's very much more akin to Disney. They have a very strong sense of identity and they want to preserve that. And the way they do that is by being very in control. Like, it works sometimes for them, it doesn't work sometimes for them. A lot of people complain about like the age of Paper Mario games and like how everything's a Toad, but it helps build their brand identity. It's like Toads are these creatures and we don't need these other side characters. I prefer these side characters who are fun and unique, but I get it. You want a uniform brand identity. I mean, look at the Mario movie, and like the Toad we have is just named Toad. There's no discerning personality, difference appearance wise to him, but it's like that's the character we're going with. Um, so they tend to be very much in control, and again, like some it works out for the advantages, and there's times where, I think for the better part of, I would say, the double O's, there was a lot of people who said that Nintendo very much in on their core IPs. You had a ton of Mario and Mario spin-offs. And that's not to say we still don't have that, but I think I would say the Switch has been defined more by Zelda than Mario. We've seen in recent years Splatoon kind of taken up. So like, but like there was a time where it's like we're gonna work on these games, these franchises, and nothing else. Like there's a dry period with Metroid. There's a dry period with F-Zero. I'm sure some people say there's still a dry period with F-Zero. Kid Icarus, Punch Out, but so sometimes they are too tightly controlled. But I think that's the main, like they have a plan, but they are very much like, if it does not fit with our current vision, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think adding to that, Earl, is that Microsoft doesn't seem to have they don't have a vision or an identity. They might have a vision. They don't seem to have an identity currently. And I think, Jeff, you're right. Like coming out of the original Xbox, it wasn't great, but they had an identity. They then picked that up. They followed it with the 360. Gears went big then. Halo 3 and Reach. They kind of marketed themselves as the online, the system that you want to play online. Like, this is what you need. And they have seemingly chased after weird trends for the last 15 years. And not even trends. They've just chased after weird things that they thought would hit. And either they were too far ahead, Like with digital distribution, they were about 10 years early on that. Or we're gonna make your Xbox One into a like weird cable box type thing.
Yeah,
kind of unfortunate.
And to be fair to them, in hindsight, everybody else is trying it. They were just the ones who were most overtly being aggressive about it. Because I mean, in hindsight, the Wii U was a disaster across the board. But like, remember, it had that TV button where like you'll
Oh
be able to watch
yeah,
TV and like comment in real time and see all these scores. And it's like that button existed on the Wii U for like a year and a half before it was even activated.
yeah.
Sony has, done a really good job with the PlayStation 2. That's their extent PlayStation 3 and like pushing new media with DVDs and Blu-ray and stuff like that. Microsoft was, I think they flew too close to the sun with that. They got cocky because again, some of that stuff is stuff that, in hindsight, we want. Like we want an all-in-one device.
That's
Um,
how I watch TV.
but
Yeah.
it was them being too aggressive and too cocky about it, where it was hurting the games. Where it's like you always need to be online to play games, and you always and it's like yeah, you could have done some of this and like rolled it out a little bit at a time. Because they tell you if they had transitioned to the Xbox One with a similar setup to the 360 and started introducing those features gradually over the course of that generation, people would have accepted it. It's when you tell people up front, this is what we're going to do, and people don't want it, that people have issues with it.
Yeah, and I also think that Xbox hit a very with the 360. They lucked out. They came in a year early than everybody else. And then Sony shot themselves in the foot with the PlayStation 3. They what was the PlayStation 3 was originally $500 and $600.
Yeah, something like that.
Like it was ridiculous. And Sony seemed cocky. Like, like you don't like the price of the PlayStation 3. You think it's too high, you should get a second job. Like dumb comments like that out of
Really?
out of Sony executives. So that hurt them a lot. That hurt Sony a lot in that era. And
yeah, but they just had some sort of mojo with the 360. Like even with the Red Rings of Death, it was just like that was the system all your friends had. And now it's not. Well, actually, I'll take that back. Because like people I know in real life have Xboxes mostly because they ask me what system they should get. And
it's all your fault, Jeff. Jeff's out there like advocating.
Xbox is a great system. Like
it is, dude. It is.
It has Game Pass. Like I don't know.
Game Pass is like whenever someone asks me, they're like, "What should I get?" It's like, "Well, just get an Xbox with Game Pass." And then, like, you don't have to worry about buying all these games. You can have access to all these great games. If you're not into games already, you haven't played most of them.
Right.
Like, it's just a great deal.
And that's that is what Microsoft does now. They are a service company. But their service has flatlined. Like it's not growing anymore. So it's gonna be a struggle for them. I hope they turn around. Jeff,
you need games, man. Like straight up, dude.
I think that fundamentally the flaw is like, yes, you need games. Because I was talking to a friend recently, and we talked about this on the show countless times this year. Is the fact that the matter is, as this is going to be the fourth holiday season for these consoles, and the fact that there are not a ton of like games coming out, and I think we talked about this with Square earlier. The, the the fact of the matter, and this is something good or bad, to go back to Walt's question, and it's a lot of things in my head right now. Sorry, is Nintendo has not shied away from still making small games. Princess Peach is not a AAA title. And this Ocean is not a AAA title. Sometimes you just need those games that fill out
something.
library. Yes, no,
Right.
but what I'm saying is like you need those games for the library where so many studios and publishers are it's all or nothing. We
Dude,
need these big AAA titles and nothing else matters. Where it's no, you can do those small, interesting games. Wow, because if the big games are gonna take 4 or 5, 6 years to make the small games. That's gonna be small in scale. That takes you 2 years to make. You need something to work on in the time you're going to. You're not putting everybody on all these games at all of the time.
the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series, whatever. I'm sorry, it's the most disappointing output I've ever seen from a console ever. Like both of them. Both of them, there's no excuse. It's fucking disgraceful. Like what is like if there were not like third party games, like why the fuck would you even buy these systems? Like and
Well,
again,
definitely on the Xbox side, people aren't. But even on the PlayStation side, like they've kind of
why?
flattened out.
But it's like
yeah,
I don't get like PS5 was getting some credit early on, but like, dude, I'm sorry. They suffer from the same problem.
Yep.
And to Earl's point, it's like I could be just as excited about something like Animal Well, which was made by one guy for probably not much of a budget, you know, and you could have like it would be such a fraction of a fraction of any of their budgets to like have some part of their studios working on stuff like this and putting stuff like this out.
But again, the problem is that is not what they value, and it's not what they can sell.
And guess what? Well, you know what? They're fucking losing. Like, but I don't know, man. I'm not some business executive, but I'm just like, dude, why am I buying your machine for?
No,
like,
and I agree with you, but it's one of those things where it's as an industry, it's it's hard to break practices, and practices have been bigger, better, faster, prettier is what we aim for. Nobody wants like I mean, looking back at it, I mean, it worked out this time. But I remember when like New Super Mario Brothers U was like the big Wii U title. It's like no, 2D games don't count. 2D games like I mean, the PlayStation was it one? Sony was very adamant on like not like you can't do 2D games. 2D games are the past, and I feel like a lot of people still have those attitudes. I'm not saying that 2D games are cheaper or easier to make, but I'm saying that like you could do more with them with fewer people. I think there's a level of graphics that you could have deemed acceptable. Like I think.
Well, shit, dude. Minecraft is considered 3D, right? Am I wrong? Like,
it is 3D.
Yeah, so it's like it's not even that. It's just like the scale of your project. You should have some like small, mid, big scale projects. You should have a lineup that is consistent. There's things coming out to be excited about. And yeah, they don't all have to be Halo or whatever. Like,
right. Microsoft has definitely dried up, but that's the other thing is they don't advertise their shit because they had those little games. Like you were getting the Oris and
Ori is an example of something I would want. Yeah,
but
even if you don't get that, and I think because like Chris said, Microsoft was the big advocate. Like Xbox Live Arcade was a massive thing. Summer of Arcade was a massive thing, and for the life of me, I never understood why
change it
away with that.
They never should have got rid of that brand name.
Yeah,
it was great.
Because then, like, you can like there are ways to fill in a library that is not necessarily always your games. It's like you can find interesting novel games and bring them and present them. Like you make titles as important as you need to be. Like if they show up at your big, not E3, whatever we're calling June. I'm never gonna say Summer Game Fest. Whatever we're calling your big June showcase. If you put those games and like put them in, not like in a scissor reel, put those games in and make them seem important. Like again, I don't like to harp too much because I love the game, but like, do you remember like the first time Nintendo announced Splatoon? It was like one of their game-ending announcements at an E3 Direct. And that made it seem like, okay, this is important. This is up there, and it's helped the game. The game is like, I mean, I think each of the entries have sold close to 10 million at least. And that is nothing to scoff at as a new IP for Nintendo. Um, make games feel important, and they will be important. I mean, like the running joke is, but everybody's looking forward to Silk Song because it feels like an important indie game that's 65 years in the making, but it feels important.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't, like, I mean, we talked about Animal World this week. I feel like Animal World, for me at least, came out of nowhere, and that happens. But you can't guarantee that. Um, you need you put your marketing money behind it, put your things behind it. And again, I don't watch as much TV as I used to, but I think Chris, like Sony and Microsoft, and to an extent Nintendo, used to advertise not just games, but the ecosystem. Like I remember Xbox had the Jump In commercials. Yes,
Yeah, with
and
Titanfall and
yeah, Sony had what Kevin from PlayStation, Kevin Butler, that was his name, right?
Yeah, Kevin.
Sure.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about.
Like one of the things people remember fondly about the Wii is like the two Japanese men coming to your door. We would like to play, and that again, you're advertising games, but you're also advertising this system and everything it offers, and that's something I feel like we've gone away from a lot of. It's like there's no branding of like this is the ecosystem. You get all of these great games. Because like yes, there's not a ton of games this year, but you've had games in the past 3 years. You can advertise to people who may want to buy your system.
Yeah, why isn't Microsoft out there advertising Game Pass during the NBA playoffs? Like it should just it should be a commercial during the playoffs, like where people that might want to like maybe they don't watch commercials, but they're gonna hear it while they're getting a drink. Yeah, and they're like, oh shit, yeah, I could jump into that, but instead it's like their messaging is. I don't even get I don't get those ads on YouTube. I don't get those ads on TikTok. I don't like where are they advertising this shit at? Anyway, we'll be back next week.
Chris is like, I'm done.
I think we've exhausted this.
Yeah. We're gonna go searching for the vagina bones, so
yeah.
Jeff, say goodnight.
You're supposed to put the bone in the vagina. It doesn't
Damn
come
it, I've
with
been
a
doing
bone
it
of its
wrong
own.
this whole time.
I'm gonna go fucking rub my vagina bone until I fucking finish.
No.
Oh no.
Oh god.
No.